Auguro a tutti voi amici piloti italiani della Audi 90 GTO IMSA in bocca al lupo per il campionato Kamel GT. Fatevi onore, date gas e tenete alto l'onore della mia Audi Racing preferita di sempre, l'Audi 90 IMSA GTO. Ciao e in bocca al lupo, tenete giù.
Best greetings to all drivers from the Audi GTO 90 Championship. Good success.
The drivers may have avoided the Nordschleife last round in Germany, but for those who dislike long laps, there's no such luck today. Le Mans is among the more behemoth racing circuits in the world, requiring even the fastest cars nearly 4 minutes for one trip around. But the patience to circulate here will be needed in more than one way. The drafting games that are expected will require a cool head and a clear mind. Let's see who has both as we get ready to watch round 9 of the iRacing Kamel GT series. You'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by W. Beard. There's no quick way to cover a track that has nearly a century's worth of history. So let's head down to our track guide to get a small overview of what this place is about. Welcome to Le Mans. When you talk about legendary circuits, this is a place that stands among the most famous in the world. Part permanent road course, part temporary street circuit, it traipses through the countryside just south of the city where it gets its namesake. Its size matches its reputation as well, clocking it at 8.5 miles, which equates to roughly 13.5 kilometers. However, when you take into account that it's split by only 33 turns, the frighteningly fast nature of this circuit becomes clear. Most of the corners have been added over the century of history it's experienced, but many have become renowned and respected. The two turns at the opposite ends of the massively long Mulsanne Straight play equally important roles. Tertre Rouge requires a great exit in order to not lose massive amounts of time, while Mulsanne Corner takes bravery and precision in order to brake as late as possible and keep opponents from passing you on the way in. There's also hair-raising moments like the tricky entry to Indianapolis, or the close walls along the bridge section in the Porsche curves. To win here, drivers will need a very low downforce setup, a good sense of strategy, and heaps of bravery. The 24 Hours of Le Mans is the crown jewel of endurance racing, which many drivers dream of someday winning and many fans flock to witness in person. Once you've driven the track here on iRacing, it's easy to see why. So much to go over here, not just with the history, but of course the length of the lap, which I'm sure is going to be a talking point here today, Adam, because there's a lot of straight line portions here.
Yeah, there definitely is. Affectionately known as the Super Speedway of Kamel, the circuit to 24 Hours de Mans is one of the strangest yet most run circuits on the Kamel calendar. Its beastly 8.47 mile or 13.63 kilometer 33 turn modern layout provides fascinating challenges, at least for the Audi GTO. See, the GTO will struggle with drastic understeer through every mid and high speed corner on the circuit. And with the GTPs, they'll just fly straight through them and struggle with each of the chicanes on the course as well as Arnage. One thing both classes will struggle with, though, is fuel. This place eats fuel in these turbocharged monstrosities, so expect to see a lot of draft packs 5 to 10 cars long, with drivers saving fuel until the last 5 to 10 minutes of the race to try and make sure that they can make it at home without stopping. As far as multi-class interaction goes, the Nissans and Audis will have similar speed on the Mulsanne straight, believe it or not, but through the turns, the Nissans will be much quicker. Expect them to take some wild dives into braking zones to make sure that they keep their pace up over this 3.5-minute lap for the Nissans and nearly 4-minute lap for the Audis. Add to that one of the largest non-split fields we've had in this year in Kamel, and I have no idea how this is going to go, Joe, but I can't wait to find out.
Certainly is going to be action-packed, I'm sure. Now, the interesting thing, too, is it comes right as the championship situation changes. Starting with the prototypes, they've now added the drop weeks in. So Cy Andra, 29 points back from Fabian Gerber, who, ironically, is probably glad for the drop weeks because last week was the first time he did not finish on the podium. His DNF definitely was erased by the drop week, so didn't lose as much as maybe he could have. And then you've got Nick Lukanos not too far back from Andra, but doesn't seem to have the pace that Cy does, and still looking for that first win this season. Lepisto and Tobias Gerber rounding out our top 5. Let's go to the GTOs as well, which also gets switched up.
Yeah, with the drop weeks introduced, Phil Lake jumps Jamie Hall once again, up 5 points. So that's going to put him up 5 points from Jamie Hall. The graph is actually switched there. So we have Phil Lake on top with Jamie Hall in second. Rob Olenek still maintains that third position, 48 points back of Jamie Hall, with Yuko Leskala 19 points back of him. So Yuko did not gain that many positions as far as the championship points are concerned with the drop weeks, unfortunately. Ryan Lang rounds out your top 5, 72 points back the leader. So he's pretty much out of contention for the lead spot, but he might be able to challenge Rob if Rob has some bad races coming in.
Now, we also have race details here today. This is pretty standard fare other than that lap length. It's round 9 out of 13, and it's only the 40-minute version. If they did that 60-minute version, definitely would have had pit stops. No faster pairs, though, so with the high speeds around here, there's not going to be small accidents most of the time, and drivers will have to take care of their stuff. And off tracks aren't as much of a concern, despite having a lot of paved runoff. They have a little bit of a different system here with a lot of slowdown penalties, which will be much more of a talking point than concerns about drivers having to have their drive-through or potentially a disqualification. We'll get to that in a second, but first we want to ask, are you looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions? From official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. Qualifying is underway, and I hope that most of our Audi drivers got out almost immediately. You talked about just under 4 minutes to try and put that time in. Well, they've only got 8 minutes to try and get their laps in, so I'm wondering how many will even manage to get 2 laps in those Audis.
I mean, to be honest, Joe, I'm not sure any of them are going to get 1 lap in. It's going to be real tight for these drivers. For example, Phil Lake is on his first lap and is just about to cross the line soon. We see Fabian Newbooth crossing the line with a 3:33.964. That's only going to be good enough for him for 9th position. So it's very, very sketchy for them. You got to remember that they start qualifying after Maison Blanche, so it's not a full lap, so they get to just start a little bit earlier, but that means that the tires aren't at full temperature. So we see that Phil Lake does go fastest. He's only going to take 1 lap around here. Michael Houghton, second fastest at the current time leader.
Boy, I would hate to be one of the drivers that just puts a wheel off enough that they do discount the lap with an off track. We're watching Rob Olenek right now. These drivers probably a little bit more important. I know we haven't really talked much about the GTP qualifying, but again, they might only get this 1 lap here. So Olenek, as he crosses the line, is going to be good enough for 2nd place on the front row.
Very impressive from him. He's been very consistent this season. If he can up his pace just a little bit, he will be challenging for the championship league going into next season for sure. Lucas Fort will be the next one around. He's just coming out of the Porsche curves now.
So as Fort comes down to the Ford chicane, has to weave it in, slow it up. It gets tighter as you go. Big tall curves to the inside of those last 2 bits. And as he comes to the line, it's a 4 flat. So that's going to put him in 10th.
It's very interesting to see how each of these drivers is tackling this. I've noticed that Andra has taken only one lap. He's currently got provisional pole by almost a full second over Fabian Gerber in the GTPs. We see Hideki Koivisto coming through the Porsche curves now. Fabian Gerber is going around for another lap, and so is Matthias Hovdahl and Nicholas Schneider. So, yeah, all the other drivers are trying to go around for that second lap, except for Sai, who seems to really like his band.
Good enough for pole position by an entire second over Fabian Gerber. We're now watching Hideki Koivisto come on down to set his first timed lap. Gives plenty of berth to those giant curves to the inside. That's a 3:38.1, and that is going to slot him into 14th, so a bit down the order for Hideki.
Yuka Liskala looking for a better result this week. So is Jamie Hall. They're both pretty much line astern as they cross the line. Yuka will cross first here and get a 3:50.877. That's good enough for provisional pole. Jamie Hall crossing the line with, unfortunately, it looks like that is going to be a 3:53.337. So that's only good enough for fifth. Yuka Liskala up to provisional pole.
Interesting stuff. Bill Lake's going to have another challenge. That Finn is usually pretty quick. Simo Raba up next here, as he also competing in the GTO class. Just has to be so patient through there. Going to go to Fabian Gerber in just a bit as we wait for the time for Simo. Looks like that one did not count, weirdly. So I'll have to go around one more time. So where is Fabian Gerber?
He just crosses the line right now with a 3:31.330. That is not going to count, it looks like. So unfortunately, he will line up second unless someone else can jump him. Here's David Flement, one of our new drivers of the series this week. Crosses the line with a 3:54.7.78. He's only going to be good enough for 10th position. Looks like Alessis Tapiavico is going to cross after the timer runs out, so he won't improve.
Wow, so a lot of drivers failed to qualify here today. Let's go through our starting order. Sai Andra is on the pole with Fabian Gerber starting next to him. Those have been our two titans slugging it out for that championship. Matthias Hovdahl looking for a second win will start from third, and Nicholas Schneider will be starting P4. You got Tobias Gerber starting in fifth today, and Martin Krajcik, a very good qualifying for P6. Stephen Warkup starts 7th, followed by Clayton McLeod in P8. Then you've got Fabian Jungbluth starting 9th. David Flamont will be rounding out your top 10, and Aitor Sintes Guindo on the inside of the next row starts 11th. Pablo Suarez next to him in 12th. Alexis Tapiavico in P13, and Mike Reuter in 14th. Hideki Koivisto 15th, David Miller 16th, and Guilherme de Otero in 17th. Jerry Folkholm is the last of the drivers to put a time in the prototypes. He starts 18th. Here's your ones behind them. Mudrak, Ladato, Forkolin, Olsen, Peak, and Kornder are the rest of the field there.
Then we have the Audis who are being pulled by Yuka Liskala, who's starting off on pole. Then Phil Lake's going to line up next to him with Rob Olnick in third, Michael Houghton lining up in fourth. Jamie Hall's going to line up in the fifth position. Not a great qualifying for him today, unfortunately. With Ben Lafter in sixth, Pablo Rangel in seventh. We have Daniel Sadro in eighth. Miguel Alcalde starting off in ninth with Ryan Lang 10th. Then we have Jamie Hamel-Smith lining up in 11th position with Ryan Walker in 12th. Lucas Fort 13th. Michael Haynes is going to line up in the 14th position with Craig Schultz in 15th. Robert Plumley will line up in the 16th spot with James Fuster lining up in 17th. Then we get to the drivers without times. Mick Claridge, Miguel Castro, Yuri Gieson, and we have Carlos Fonseca, Alexander Veldman, Simo Raba, Pierre-Luc Bouffard, and Sandro Scary are going to round out your 49-car field today.
All right, as the drivers now take off after the Porsche pace car, we get a short little pace lap here, so we don't have to go around the entire thing. Then 40 minutes of racing here at Le Mans. You can see all the prototypes. This is a huge, huge field here today. I guess a testament. You said that this track shows up a lot in the schedule. This kind of backs up the fact that it seems very popular. It is a little bit warm out there on track, though. 38 degrees Celsius on the surface. That's about 101 degrees Fahrenheit that they are dealing with. So hopefully the drivers will take that into account as they get going soon here. Adam?
Yeah, one of the most interesting things is that even some of the drivers who did not qualify well, don't count them out yet. This is a very draft-happy track, especially for the Audis. Expect to see them draft packing like you see at Daytona or Talladega in the NASCAR machines as they go down the long Mulsanne straight into those sharp hairpins.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's going to be a case of trying to keep up with that lead pack for a lot of drivers just for a shot at the win. We've seen it before that they kind of trickle away as mistakes get made and they lose the slipstream. Now they are finally out of Maison Blanche, or excuse me, out of Corvette Curve and now into Maison Blanche. But we're going to skip over here to the front stretch now that we've got the jets flying overhead with the tricolor. Traditional here, not only in the real world, but as well in the sim. They made sure to add this nice little touch that kind of adds to the hype as the drivers get ready to race. Porsche pace car just getting ready to pull in now as they've hit the Ford chicanes. They're giving control over to Cy Andra. Green flag is out. It's a short wait, and he is off. He's blinking a little bit, though, but it's a decent start. He's going to have to watch out for that, and so will his rivals as they all fly down towards the Dunlop curve into the Dunlop chicane. Avdal backing out of it as he's not interested in trying to challenge Schneider, although Schneider outbreaks himself, and he's going to go wide. He's going to lose a lot of places here. Everybody else behind them looks to be clean. Let's go to the GTOs.
Yuko Leskola got a slowdown going through the final corners. So that really frees up Phil Lake to take off. Rob Olnick now in second place with Jamie Hall in third position. That promotes Ben Lafter up to fourth. Jamie Hall improving 2 positions over the course of this beginning of portion, and they've really started to gap the rest of the GTO field, Joe.
Already our GTPs are on the Mulsanne straight. And I think Cy Andra is going to get the first taste of how things are going to go because Fabian Gerber streams on by with ease. Now, I wonder, though, is Cy doing this intentionally, maybe taking some time to sit behind Fabian Gerber because that fuel saving you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, it's definitely a possibility for him to do that. It's one of the
more critical things, I'm sure, here at this track. As they make their way through the first chicane. Already our GTOs are now hitting that for the first time. Didn't have a switch around like we saw there. Lake still ahead of Olenek. Leskola on the start all the way down to fourth. A nightmare scenario for him.
Yeah, he's now moved all the way back up to the, like you said, up to the fourth position after losing a lot of spots. But he's behind the draft train of Jamie Hall. He's going to have to do some really intense stuff to get up there towards them. But one driver who's out of the race already is Michael Houghton. He made contact with Rob Olnick at the start of the race, hit the inside wall, and has major front end damage. He's already out of the race before we even got the green flag.
Oh, and we've got a big accident. Looks like Hamill Smith involved, Ryan Walker.
Lucas Fort.
Oh, this is down into the second chicane. Cars scattering. I think Hamill Smith is the only one that hit the wall, though.
This is some interesting play here. Looks like the Ford car decided not to back off going into that corner and ends up going onto the straight. Oh my goodness. And Lucas Fort just ends up cleaning out the 15. We're going to see it right here.
Oh. And Hamill Smith just kind of not involved in it really at all. Everybody else weaving their way through as everyone scatters off into the runoff of that second chicane. Doesn't look like too bad a damage on most of the cars, and they're able to keep going.
Yeah, that surprises me a little bit, Joe, because Lucas Fort's been driving in this series for about half a season now, so that's not something that I would expect from him.
Maybe could have been a little bit cold tires, as the drivers are still getting them up to temperature with these long straights. Meanwhile, taking a look at Phil Lake ahead of Hall, ahead of Olenek. Leskola's definitely caught up with him, so I think he doesn't have to worry anymore. And Ben Lafter seems to be the last of the front train of 5.
And I would expect these guys to start doing some draft work as far as this fuel management is concerned for themselves. Yuko's definitely caught up to the back of them. Ben Lafter is well within draft range. This train's only going to get longer over the course of the race, Joe.
Let's see, how far back are they to Sadro? Looks like about 2.1 seconds. Now, if my past experience is anything to go by, is that 2 seconds about the cusp, or do you have to be closer than that to try and feel the effects?
The effects of the full effect of the draft is about 1.2 seconds behind these Audis. You get minimal effects with about 2 seconds back, but it's not going to draw you up to the guys. It'll just make you a little bit quicker, make sure you don't drop them. But if you want to draw up to the back of the table, you're going to have to be within 1.2 seconds in those Audis on the straights. But look at this battle for the lead. Fabian Gerber has made it past Cy Andra and is now trying to snake away.
So, with Hovdahl giving chase and Tobias Gerber, his brother, a little bit farther down in fourth. We're seeing this top group form up here in the prototypes as well. I think it's also another... Well, no, it's a few cars. It's just a little bit spread out. I was going to say Schneider might be the last one in fifth, but looks like Kratrix barely holding on, and Stephen Warkup as well is in the mix. But coming down to the first chicane, Andra took a little bit of a look, decided not to try and pass. Going to come out of there onto the second portion of the Mulsanne. Hovdahl, let's not forget, his win came at a very similar track. They were at Monza, where he took the victory in round one.
Oh, and here comes another pass for the lead. It looks like Cy Andra pulling out from behind Fabian Gerber. He's going to try and make the pass here as they go into the braking zone for the second chicane, and he's not going to quite be able to do it. Fabian Gerber carrying more speed in.
So no change once again. Andra seems to be playing quite patiently with this game. Behind them, it's a pretty similar situation with the GTOs. Lake Hall, Leskala, Olenek, and Laughter just kind of sitting in line, not seeing really any attacks happen here. Laughter seems to have closed that gap somewhat.
And here comes Jamie Hall on Phil Lake, going to make that pass, a slingshot by. Here comes Yuko Leskala, who's going to look for that second position. Yuko made a pass on Rob Olenek on the last portion of the Mulsanne straight, so he's now made a pass on Phil Lake up to second place. Yuko Leskala.
I spoke too soon. New leader, Jamie Hall. He and Phil Lake have been the main fighters for the championship in this GTO class, so no surprises seeing them up at the front once again. Are we going to get a switch around? Leskala's got the run. But that looks like a big lift to me. Lake as well going to follow suit. He's not going to try and challenge.
Yeah, and expect to see a lot of this today. We'll see a lot of switching back and forth from these drivers. I think the person looking all the way to the end of the race, the person who's going to win this race is the person leading as they go into the Porsche curves.
Back. Oh, and Suarez is off in Arnage. I'm not sure what caused this. Looks like he was in a bit of a battle with McLeod. We got the replay here. This is going into Indianapolis.
Oh, he just outbraked himself, I believe. We're going to see it right here as they come through Arnage.
I think McLeod maybe gave him a little help in the process. Let's watch. No, maybe not. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, McLeod made contact because he had to try and turn in, but I think he was already going to miss it at that point.
Great heads up, honestly, from McLeod to see that happening and not turn into him. Meanwhile, up at the top spot, Cy Andra still holding right underneath that rear wing as we now hop on board with Fabian Gerber looking through the 007 cam. Hovdahl just behind him. And this is very strange. Every single time we see Cy Andra pop out, this time actually, though, he is trying to effect a pass, has a little bit of a blink. They're going to get side by side down through Dunlop, but he isn't able to get through completely. So Fabian Gerber holds on. I would have thought that Andra, maybe with all the talk we've heard about that fuel saving, he would have stayed tucked in behind Gerber longer than this. I'm not sure why he's trying to get back into the front.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to consider. I think we're just trying to put pressure on Gerber and maybe make him make a mistake. So as they go back onto the straight here, let's see whether or not he tries to make another move. An update on the GTOs. Yuko Leskala moved from fourth up to first position going into the Porsche chicane, so they're continuing to swap positions back there as well.
All right, as they come up to the first chicane, braking hard. These cars can go incredibly deep into there in spite of them being old technology. Once again, Andre getting awful close, almost making contact with the back of him into that first chicane. We are getting a breakaway finally, though, and it is indeed 5 cars up at the top. It's Fabian Gerber, Andre Hofdahl, Tobias Gerber, and Schneider.
Yeah, it's very tight up here for the lead of the race, and it's really... Oh, major contact between our leaders, Andre and Fabian Gerber. Nose-to-tail contact. That's going to be major damage, especially for Cy.
And once again, Hofdahl finds himself leading after problems with the others up at the front of a draft track. They're going to lose the draft big time. You can see how far they've fallen back. It's now become 3 of them. Hofdahl, Tobias Gerber, and Nick Schneider. And Schneider's going to go side by side for second place in a Mulsanne corner. Maybe an over-under there for Tobias. No, he can't get the throttle down.
Yeah, that was some decent ghost contact there that ended up resulting with Fabian going and Cy coming together, unfortunately. But now we've got Matthias Hofdahl leading with Nicholas Schneider in second and Tobias Gerber in third. Fabian has recovered. He's losing positions. He's losing time, though, to these leaders, about 2 seconds back.
Down into Indianapolis once again, all 3 of them blowing the car up. You talked about how the drivers kind of refer to this place as the super speedway of Camel. Wonder if that makes Matthias Hofdahl the Dale Jr. of the Camel series, if he gets another super speedway win here. And he's starting to pull away, actually. Schneider and Gerber battling this much is costing them time.
Yeah, and if they're not careful, they'll lose that draft to Matthias, and he'll just be able to take off here. But here they go, side by side through the Porsche curves. I believe Nicholas is going to have a better run in. He's going to take it a little bit deeper on the brakes. Tobias actually decides to back off there. And Fabian has already closed that gap up down to 1 second. If he can get into this draft, then he will be able to negate some of his damage and maybe continue to be able to battle for the lead.
Fabian's probably one of the few that is appreciating those 2 battling, as it gives him a chance to maybe leapfrog back up and try and chase down Hofdahl. That's if Andre will leave him alone, because Andre's staying right with him. They are also pulling along now Stephen Warkup, who had fallen back before this, but now he can latch onto the back of these 2.
Yeah, and due to the nature of the contact with Andre and Fabian, oh, look at this side-by-side battle for P7 in the GTOs.
Yeah, that is Mick Claridge ahead of Rangel, and it looks like Lang to his inside coming through Arnage. Neither one is willing to give way. They're going to stay door to door. This is for P8 between these 2. Coming up to the Porsche curves, this usually is a single file affair, so somebody's going to have to give way. Lang's going to have the inside of the first corner. Will he be able to powerhouse his way in? No, not quite. They're still dead even on the brakes. Rangel, can he hold on to it into Bridge? Lang's going to be under, a serious threat as he puts a wheel in the grass, almost brushes the wall, and Bridge still side by side. Holy cow. These are some fierce competitors for this 8th position, and finally Rangel manages to get himself into that spot.
Yeah, but Mick Claridge is free and clear. Mick Claridge, I mean, this man is up 11 positions from his starting position this race. And we got a battle for the lead here. Yuko Leskala looking like he's having some trouble.
Either a cut course penalty or he missed a shift. I'm not sure which. He falls down to 3rd. Lake back up to the top spot. Hall is currently in 2nd place.
It was a missed shift, unfortunately, for Yuko Leskala that cost him that time. Fortunately, he's still within the draft of the 2 guys ahead of him, so he should be fine once they get back onto the straight. But that's got to be frustrating for Yuko.
Interestingly, that lap was discounted, though. I'm not sure if maybe he did have an off track or something earlier on, but maybe he had a little bit of both, of missing a shift and having a cut course penalty. We're on board with him now. Whatever the case, he hasn't lost touch, but they are dropping Rob Olenek, and I think you can safely say that Ben Lafter is out of the picture.
Yeah, Ben Lafter, unfortunately, out of the picture at the moment, for sure, with these drivers. Rob Olnek's about 1.5 seconds back here of Yuko himself, so Rob's starting to catch back up to these guys. They seem to be able to streak away a little bit. Rob seeming to have a little bit of trouble. He ends up catching some cut course penalties here and there, but he's able to catch back up. He's now closed that gap to about 1 second. And Ryan Lang and Pablo Rangel are side by side once again as they go into the chicanes.
Looks like it's going to be Rangel once more who comes out in front. Now they've got Alcalde and the 24 that's trying to get involved in this. Oh, man, he's got a good slipstream here, Lang. He's going to get to the inside. Not much of a fight there from Pablo. Can he manage to get fully beyond? He is. He tucks back into the racing line, and still Pablo comes back at him. Did he outbrake himself, or is he going to be able to stop in time? No, he's off into the kitty litter, and this is going to be a cut course penalty for him for sure. He might lose the draft. Indeed, there goes Alcalde and Lang.
Yeah, and it's so easy to do in the Audis. It's so hard to get the braking right. If you miss it by just a couple of meters, you're definitely going off into the kitty litter. It's so precise here. Man, I mean, it's awesome seeing all these battles all over the track right now.
Let's head back up to the top of the GTPs because Matthias Hovdal is now 2 seconds ahead of Nick Schneider. It seems like things have settled down here between them and they're trying to catch up to him, but it might be too little too late. They are definitely bringing along Fabian behind his brother Tobias because it's about a second between those two.
Yeah, and Fabian definitely has some damage that's affecting him because he cannot, for the life of him, close back up that gap to Tobias's brother. So unfortunately, he's still struggling with some damage. I would have expected him to get quite close there.
I'm surprised he doesn't try and let maybe Sai through if Sai is a little bit better in a straight line potentially and see if he can pull them up. We'll see. I guess we'll find out here because they're coming out of Tertre Rouge onto the Mulsanne. And if he does have better top end speed, he should be able to easily go by. We're on board with Gerber now. That is Andra in the blue machine. Yeah, there we go. There's the swap.
Yeah, and that's got to be pretty frustrating for Fabian, considering that Sai Andra's front clip should be completely destroyed from that contact that they made. Unfortunately for him, Andra looks like he was able to get away with that one without getting any damage. So these two fierce competitors have battled side by side. There's tons of respect between the two of them, so I wouldn't expect him to hold a grudge, but it's got to be frustrating as a racer in this particular race right now.
Well, and also knowing how quickly Sai has been closing in on the championship, it's got to be making Gerber nervous as well, and he's really dropping back here. Wow, this is a long ways back that he has fallen off of Sai Andra, who's now onto the back of his brother Tobias. Now, how quickly does he try and weave his way through them to see if he can chase down Hovdal, who continues to extend his gap? It is 2.5 seconds and half a lap here.
Yeah, so I was going to have to try and get this job done quite quickly on these two drivers up ahead of him because Matthias Hovdal is free and clear. He broke that draft, like I said earlier, and that's going to be a real problem for the drivers behind. Unless they work together to try and catch up to him, they're not going to be able to by the time this race is finished. But that being said, Matthias Hovdal out there alone means that he's not saving fuel.
Who is that in the background? 2 cars off Krejcik. Krejcik seems to be one of those. Now, were they, is there contact here? Warcup was the other one. I'm not seeing contact on my replay. Looks like both of them just messed up the corner on their own. Let's take a glance at the replay. That's Warcup in the blue and red. That's Krejcik just behind him. Krejcik way too hot into the corner. Goes much farther off, and Warcup himself barely avoids heading off into the sand.
Yeah, Tobias Gerber just made a pass on Nicholas Schneider. Nicholas Schneider just lost 2 positions up there for that second position. Tobias Gerber now in second. Sai Andra in the 3rd spot. Sai gaining on Tobias quite quickly here. So, wow, I mean, a lot's changing. The complexion of this race is changing constantly at the front of these fields.
And Andre, remember, is on 3 wins right now. Compare that to his rival Fabian, who only has 2. In fact, Andre has more poles as well. Let's jump back down to the GTOs, though. Leskala's back up in front. Lake is currently following him. Hall is in 3rd. And Olenek has recovered. He is in the train once again. Ooh, is he?
Nice shift for Jamie Hall.
Oh, no. I saw Olenek dive to the side. I thought maybe he spun the tires. I guess he was just trying to take some avoidance.
And he's just going to try and push Jamie up towards Phil and Leskala Phil is saving some fuel behind Lesko at the moment. He's backed off the last couple of straights, and he does it once again as we head into Indianapolis. So he's trying to save some fuel and some tires instead of trying to pass Lesko at this point in the race. We're almost halfway through.
Let's stay here, but an update for fans of Fabian Gerber. He has have to come into the pits here and get repairs. So he is tumbling down the order. You might have seen it on your timing screen. I'm not sure where exactly he's going to come out, but the win is definitely off the cards at this point for him.
Yeah, tough break for Fabian. An accident not of his own doing is going to cause him to go back towards the back of the pack, and that's definitely going to close in the points championship, like you said, Joe. So things are looking pretty dire for Fabian at this point in the season. He's going to have to get some good luck and some good results coming forward if he wants to maintain this championship.
Down through the Porsche curves now. Paul trying to make up the ground that he lost. It's right on the cusp at about 9/10 of a second. Once they get to a long straight, if you can hold on to this, which I'd say you could maybe count the front stretch there, but probably more waiting for the Mulsanne. Oh, closes in big time though here at the braking into the Ford chicane. He's not going to need it at all. He is already up with those top two of Leskola and Lake once again.
Yeah, and that's just the nature of the Audis. They're these giant bricks that move through the air. They push a ton of air out, so the draft effect is really strong with these cars. It may not be longer than other vehicles, but it's definitely stronger for sure, and you can really move up forward. But let's take a look at P6. This is between Fabian Newbluth and Martin Krejcik.
So Krejcik, who lost a position from his mistake just a lap ago, is trying to see if he can recover and get by Jungblut. He's got a little bit more speed. He's got the slipstream as he closes in. But is he going to try and attack down in a Mulsanne corner? Last time he braked a little too deep. This time, no. He's going to hit the apex nice and tidy. We'll get another chance here. Coming past Golf Curve and No Name up towards Indianapolis.
Yeah, looking at it, it looks like Jungblut has a little bit more wing on the machine than Martin Krejcik. Krejcik's gaining in the draft a lot faster than I would expect if they both have the same wing setting. So I think Jungblut is trying to have enough speed to take these medium and high-speed corners quickly.
We got a side-by-side action between Ondra and Tobias Gerber, and Ondra's actually going to come out the worst of it. Too much wheel spin out of Arnage. They were fighting down into Indianapolis. Schneider says, thank you very much. I'll get a 2 for 1. He's going to get by both Ondra and maybe Gerber. Whoa, Gerber way deep into the corner. Is he too deep? He keeps it on the track, but just barely. Now he falls back through bridge, and Cy Ondra has to give way, making sure he doesn't rear-end him.
Wow, well, that was a scary moment there for Tobias Gerber for sure. But while they're doing this, Matthias Hovdal out to 4.3 second lead. So hopefully Matthias is watching his fuel. If he can make it home with this big of a gap out front, that's going to be really impressive.
Talked about frustration before. Ondra's got to be getting a little bit frustrated here, thinking maybe he's got the pace to try and chase down Matthias, but he can't do anything with it because he keeps getting into tussles here with Gerber and Schneider. We're on board. Gerber now looking back at Cy. Cy's going to look to the outside as a slightly defensive move from Tobias down into the Dunlop chicane. Could go for the over-under here if he gets the exit that he needs. He does. A little bit of wheel spin from the black and yellow car of Tobias Gerber, and the deed is done. Cy Ondra is through.
Yeah, Cy needed to get that job done because Nicholas Schneider's starting to take off into the distance, and Cy cannot afford to lose the draft of Nicholas. It's about a second at this point. Ooh, it looks like we've had another incident.
Miller, this is in the Ford chicane. This is the number 42 car.
And there was contact there.
Yeah.
This is with Luca Laudato. And this is all right in front of Fabian Gerber as well. Oh, yeah, just ended up getting into the back of him in the braking. It looks like Miller was a little bit slow there, so that's why that ended up happening. And so at this point, Miller trying to recover and get back on track.
Heading back to our GTO leaders. Lake ahead of Leskola, ahead of Hall, ahead of Olenek. That's your top four right there on screen. Coming through Maison Blanche now. I'm assuming we'll maybe only get one time through. Well, actually, not even just assuming, since we're past halfway, we will only be lapped one time by the GTPs. Question is, will they get through the entire field? Will these guys get interrupted by those prototypes?
It really doesn't seem likely, but Matthias Hovdal's starting to catch up to the front of the GTO field. You can see it right there. That's Matthias, and in the back there, I believe that is going to be the 26 car of Craig Schultz, who's already had his own pit stop for damage. So he's out there just trying to log some laps at this point and get some practice in.
That's going to complicate things. Even with all the long straights, they still will have some twisty bits to try and have to work out that traffic. Just watch from Schultz with the approach coming up through Arnage. He's just behind Pierre-Luc Buffard.
Yeah, the trouble with running the GTPs on this track and with how big the track is, you don't really get that much practice when it comes to trying to pass the GTOs. Now, if we jump back to the second position, I believe Syandra's going to make a move on Nicholas Schneider.
He's closing in. He's going to get to the inside. Now, can he leave him behind? He's got P2. This actually might be ideal for Cy, because this is one of the more technical portions of the lap here. So maybe he can try and break that slipstream enough that he isn't challenged.
That was a good move there to try and get by Craig Schultz on the inside, because you could see that Craig was going wide. So here comes Pierre-Luc Buffard, and he's going to dive to the inside under braking. That's exactly what I was expecting the GTPs to do. That being said, Pierre-Luc Buffard pushed quite a ways offline there. But as Cy goes through, he's going to now try and set his sights on Matthias Hovdal. He's already cut about half a second off of him just in that last portion of the lap alone, with the fastest lap of the race.
And interestingly, I think the traffic has been helping Cy in other ways, because it's 3.5 seconds up to Hovdal. I'm not sure if I'm pretty sure that's not just raw pace. Hovdal has been dealing with GTOs of his own. I've been looking through, trying to keep track of who's been climbing upwards, since we had a lot of drivers that did not manage to qualify. Just a quick note that Laust Olsen, who didn't get a time in, started 22nd in his field, is up to 12th already. And he might actually get one more, because this is with Reuter just ahead of him as we hop on board now with Laust.
Yeah, Mike Reuter trying to stay up ahead of him, but Mike has been lapping almost 2 seconds slower than Laust Olsen on average, so I'd expect Laust to be able to make quick work of Mike.
Olsen making good on what was an unfortunate situation. Now the long Mulsanne straight, and he is within about half a second, so should reel in Reuter pretty quickly. Indeed, you can see how fast he's getting bigger on our screens. He runs out of track. Looks like he's lifted a little bit. This could either be the fuel saving, or could be a case of him just wanting to get a nice run out of here and make it an easy pass down to the second chicane.
You got to remember that Laust Olsen has about an extra 300 feet of full race pace that he has to go in this race. That may not seem like much, but when it comes to sputtering at the line, just a couple more seconds of lift and coast for Laust could mean the difference between crossing the line at full power and with no power.
Looks like he's going to go for it here. And indeed, out breaks Reuter down into the second chicane. Now he can focus his eyes on Vico up ahead in the number 10. Now, interestingly, Schneider and Gerber have been falling off of Syantra, and Andra is down to 2.5 seconds. Hovdal has got to be looking in his mirrors now.
Yeah, Andra has peeled away nearly 2 seconds on this lap alone to Matthias Hovdal. So he gets held up there a little bit behind Nicholas Fort, who you see in the background. That was Andra going past Fort. But Hovdal, he's not streaking away quite as much as he hoped he would, and Andra is much quicker and clearer in.
Yeah, Lucas Fort just getting out of the way of the other two. Andra cost a bit of time with that maneuver. So it's up to 3.5 seconds now with 11 minutes to go. We'll see if he can catch up later, because Phil Lake and Leskala up ahead of Jamie Hall seem to have lost one of their friends, at least a little bit. Rob Olenek trying to run them back down. Olenek looks like, once again, struggling a little bit to try and hold on to the front runners.
Yeah, he's struggling on corner exit with push right now, which is making it really difficult for him to get off of the corners and maintain speed with these guys. I don't expect him to be a challenger to these guys towards the end of the race if he can't sort that out, or at least adjust the brake bias a little bit. So it's going to be challenging to try and sort that out for himself. But I'd like to note that Leskala has been falling behind Phil Lake for the last 2 laps. And Leskala at this point is not trying to challenge Phil, so I think he might be trying to play a fuel game here, or a tire game, just to try and get Phil at a little bit of a disadvantage as we go into the last part of the lap. But the hardest thing is going to be for either of these drivers to stay ahead of the other one when they come into the last lap, because whoever has the draft exiting the Mulsanne, well, frankly, exiting Arnage, is going to be the person in the best position to win this race.
Everybody through Mulsanne one more time. The other thing that never ceases to amaze me is just how long the braking distances are in these cars, especially with such high speeds. And Fabian Gerber just took the fastest lap of the race, interestingly. You saw up in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. So he got that damage fixed, but he's currently in 15th, and trying to see how far back they award points here in the GTPs.
Yeah, these Audi drivers are definitely just chewing along at this point, in line with one another. I mean, they're trying to tighten up in the braking zone so that they can spend as little time on throttle as possible on these straights. That's why you see them getting so close under braking. But I think Phil Lake's gonna have to find a way to get past, which is kind of hilarious to say. But he's gonna have to try and find a way to be passed by Yuko and save some fuel himself.
Let's keep the cameras here, but I did some quick looking up, and Fabian Gerber is indeed within the points where he is right now in 15th position, and I assume we'll probably be able to make up at least a few more before this race is over, and with the pace that he's showing. Meanwhile, these top 4 in the GTOs now coming out of karting and into Corvette. Just to tell you their pace, by the way, Ben Lafter is 20 seconds behind them. They have ditched the field up here.
Well, if you're wondering why, that's because Ben Lafter is alone on track. Daniel Sadra is about 1.2 seconds back and falling, so Ben Lafter has no drafting support whatsoever for himself, whereas these guys are in a 4-car draft train just pushing themselves along. While they're up here turning 53s. Oh, and we have a battle going on, and this is between Tobias Gerber and Nick Schneider, and it looks like Tobias made a pass.
Yep, this was, well, no, it was a defense. Schneider, Gerber was trying to go around him and tried to make a brave move. This is a gutsy one. We've seen this go wrong so many times in Indianapolis. He's got the momentum, covers off the inside. Oh, whoa! Ooh. Schneider's been watching a little bit too much Formula E, I think.
Yeah, or Formula One when it comes to a couple of the defenses we saw last weekend. But yeah, I mean, you know, you take advice from your idols, and that was a pretty spicy defense right there.
Yeah, both those series have been seeing some aggressive moves, shall we say, lately. So Schneider stays in third. Tobias Gerber still off the podium. For those wondering on an update who didn't notice the upper left, Andra is now under 2 seconds once again to Hovdal and continuing to close.
And just keeping my eyes around the track, the GTO leaders are just moseying on in. They are actually slowing down significantly before the end of the straightaway. So they're definitely looking at fuel consumption as a problem. But none of them want to make it past Phil Lake. But as we watch right here, yeah, this battle between Tobias and Nicholas. Oh, that was a big slide from Nicholas Schneider.
And that should give him a slowdown penalty, I would have thought. He cut completely across the... There we go. Okay. I was going to say, he was just waiting for the right spot, it seems. So, okay, Tobias Gerber up to third. But, significantly, Schneider is still within draft range. We could take this fight right back to him. Let's ride on board here with Schneider as we pick up speed. It's 187, 190 miles an hour, still climbing as they head towards the first chicane. 200 miles an hour that these cars are able to reach, just shy of it, it seems, as Schneider tops out at 198.
Yeah, Nicholas trying to get back up there to Tobias Gerber, but can't quite do it. I think Tobias has got some decent corner exit speed, which is keeping him launched up ahead of Schneider. But Schneider does seem to have some decent speed on the straight, so we'll see whether or not he can catch him.
Oh, GTO leaders are swapping around once again. Looks like Jamie Hall going by Phil Lake. Leskala just given watch behind him. That was into Indianapolis. Now, you were saying you want to be in second or third about here out of our notch. You think the draft is powerful enough before the push of curves?
Absolutely. I think second coming out of our notch is the way to play this game, especially if you can get in the draft of the vehicle ahead. You notice how Jamie's staying off to the right side to make sure that Phil doesn't get drafted in behind him. That's what you're going to see a lot of those games, but look how close Phil is by the time they hit the Porsche curves, and Phil wasn't even in the draft of Jamie Hall. I think that the right strategy play is to try and be in second place exiting our notch on the last lap, get ahead before the Porsche curves, and then at that point you just need to have a decent Porsche curves, keep the guys behind you, make sure they don't get a good exit out of them into the Forge King.
Oh, that battle between Rangel and Lang came to tears, unfortunately, into Indianapolis, and it was definitely worse off for Pablo. Let's take a look at the replay. Side by side into Indianapolis. A little bit of contact, it looks like, but then Rangel just kind of loses it into the Armco off to the right.
Yeah, Rangel's probably actually locking up that whole entire time after they made contact because of the nature of that braking zone. If you get bumped over like that, you start to get that nose pointed to the right, you end up just sliding straight off, and it's pretty much unavoidable in the Audi.
Just had to see with such great fighting that they had before. Let's take a glance in behind our GTO leaders, because Laughter just has not been getting the screen time this time ever since he dropped off, but he might get into the way that he does not want. Sadro is closing up, trying to challenge him for that top 5.
Yeah, and this is one of those, I think Ben Laughter is going to have to just back off and let Sadro get by and save a little bit of fuel, because Ben's been running by himself for most of the time in this race, so he's going to actually want Sadro to get by him for a couple laps so he can save some fuel and make sure he can make it home.
Whoa, we had a big accident with Fabian Jungbluth.
Holy smokes.
This was with, it looks like, the car of Scurry, Sandro Scurry.
Oh, Scurry had a big off and crossed right in front of him through the Porsche curves. We'll see it right here.
And that was Ryan Walker, who was trying to actually went underneath the wreck, had a little bit of contact with it, and Flamont, wow, it looks like David finding himself just having to slow up almost to a halt to try and get through, but that'll gift him 6th place. Back up to our leaders in the GTO class. It is Hall up ahead of Lake. Early braking from Phil this time. Not interested in trying to challenge.
He doesn't want to cause an incident like we saw between Cy Andra and Fabian Gerber, so that's why he's doing that. Speaking of Fabian Gerber, just an update on him. Last we checked in on him, he was in 14th position. He's already up to 11th and continuing to put in fastest laps of this race, trying to climb his way back into the top 10. I think he's going to make it there, Joe.
About 2 seconds up to McLeod. It's going to be tight, if I'm honest. We're still on the leaders with the GTOs, and I'm keeping half an eye on the GTP leaders. This is the one we need to stay with right now, because this is the closer one, but Andra is within half a second of Hovdal at this point. And they're going to get the white flag. Are we on the last lap? It looks like we're going to get the white flag from what we're seeing.
Yeah, Hovdal should get the white flag the next time around. So Cy Andra is going to have to close this 1 second gap as quickly as possible and get round to the back of Hovdal so he can make the pass on the last lap, because it's going to be close.
I wonder if, let's pull up the speeds between them, because I think Andre is suffering a little bit from straight line. He was within half a second, and then suddenly Hovdal just started to streak away. Now, that could have been because of the slipstream of the Audi that he went by. But as they start to pick up, 190 just about for Hovdal. Andre looks comparative, so yeah, I think maybe it just a false alarm there. It looks like it was the slipstream of the slower traffic that helped Hovdal out there on that run.
I mean, Andre is down by about 2 kilometers per hour on the straights, but that's not going to be what's like majorly affecting him. But look at this. Hovdal pulling away now by a full second just in that last sector alone.
Is Andre having to save fuel here? Potentially? I mean, I would be surprised if it's more than Hovdal.
Well, if he does have damage, and Fabian Gerber just made a pass on Clayton McLeod just now. We saw it there, Wiz, just coming out of Arnage, I believe.
Wow. That was a lot quicker than I anticipated that he ran down Clayton McLeod. So top 10, more points for Fabian Gerber and damage limitation in what will be an unfortunate chapter in this fight for him. White flag is out, though, for Hovdal, as our leaders in the GTOs are just ahead of them. I don't think they're going to catch them, though.
I don't think so either. I think that they're going to have 2 more laps of this, which is frankly terrifying if you're the Audi leaders. The fact that their pace has been such that they might get an extra 2 laps out of this than they were expecting is going to be terrifying. But Cy Andre puts in the fastest lap of the race. Oh my goodness. That was Matthias Hovdal losing traction as he came out of those first curves.
Hustling the car. He knows that Cy Andre is back there and is coming. Meanwhile, we've got a change for the lead in the GTOs down to the first chicane. It is Hall ahead of Lake. I wonder if they're treating this one like the last lap. And remember, it is almost 20 seconds difference between the 2 classes. Oh, we have some cars that are in pit lane that did not save enough. War Cup is in. Flamont. Looks like Clayton McLeod also having to pit.
Here comes Phil Lake once again on Jamie Hall, so it's all cracking off here on the last lap of the race for sure. Phil Lake making the pass on Jamie Hall, but will he be able to hold it going into the last section? This is them battling for the win that they think is going to happen on this lap, or it is them trying to figure out what the winning strategy is.
And it looks like another pass to the inside from Jamie Hall. Another point in this is, let's keep the cameras here. Fabian Gerber is gaining more spots by those pitting. His having to come in to get that damage repaired might have been a boon to get a little bit of fuel. Side by side down from Malson. Jamie Hall to the inside of Phil Lake, and Leskala tried to take a peek. Doesn't quite work out.
I think they think this is the last lap, but Matthias Hovdal still 20 seconds behind them. He's not going to pass them by the time they get to the line. So while they're doing all this duking it out, Matthias Hovdal and Cy Andre are not going to catch them by the time they cross the line. Look at this. Four cars just tucked under a blanket here trying to battle for the lead of the GTOs.
To the outside, coming into Indianapolis is Hall. Looks for the attack. He's going to have to go the long way around to the second apex. Now it's side by side down into Arnage. Oh, he loses the car under braking. He's going.
Oh no!
That was Leskala getting into him. Oh, and now Lake. What happened to Lake? All 4 of our leaders get together with a lap to go. This is going to slow them down even more, though.
They're not going to get caught still. It's still 10 seconds back to Matthias Hovdal. Rob Olnick trying to take off into the lead. We're going to jump on board with Hovdal, though, because Cy Andre's quite close behind them.
Olenek is now our leader, with Lake chasing. Leskala's just behind, and Hall back and forth has dropped back. Hovdal still about a second ahead. This is going to be extremely tight, to be honest.
If Hovdal will let them go, though, because he's got less than a second back to Cy Andre. So as the GTO leaders come into the fourth chicane, they're going to be able to get another lap for sure. Matthias Hovdal not close enough to close that gap. Look at Cy. He's so tight in behind him.
Has got to hustle. So line, is Hovdahl having to save fuel? Is he close? Syandra has to accelerate very hard off the corner, but it's not going to be. And Hovdahl with another slipstream track win. Incredible stuff for the number 11 over Syandra. Nicholas Schneider, well behind them, is going to claim the last spot on the podium.
But now the battle is for that GTO lead. Rob Olenek taking an opportunistic position there over Phil Lake. Phil with some front-end damage now that was caused by Rob getting into him. Jukka Leskala in the best position as far as damage is concerned, but can he make it work on this last lap? It's about to be time to see how much slower these two guys up ahead are than Jukka on the straights.
They do still have Jamie Hall back there, and honestly, I'm not counting anything out. We had all four of them come together before, so I think Hall is in this with a shot if something erupts with these three. Meanwhile, Olenek under attack as Phil Lake looks to the inside. Leskala patiently waiting. He could maybe try something if he accelerates off the corner faster than them. He's definitely giving a little bit of room. I think he's setting him up.
Yeah, and this is allowing Jamie Hall to get back into it a little bit. He just gained about a second on them on that straightaway. So Rob Olenek and Phil Lake are definitely down on straight line speed. Here's Yuko's chance to get by. He's actually going to back off, though. I think he's trying to position for a little bit further on in the lap to try and get by. But Phil's not going fast enough. He's got to go by Phil. And look at how the speed he has on Rob as well.
Championship starts. Leskala all the way up to the front. And by the time they hit the braking zone, Olenek finds himself demoted to second place. Here comes Jamie Hall. He has now caught the group, and it's once again a four-car fight. There is nobody behind them. Is it the only cars that we have able to compete for the win in the GTO lead here in round 9?
Look at Leskala take off into the distance. Jamie Hall's going to have to pass both of these guys before they hit Mulsanne corner. Otherwise, he's not going to have a chance to get to Leskala. He can't quite clear Rob Olenek.
If any of them have enough damage that it's slowing them in a straight line, and maybe we've only got Leskala with a clean enough car that he can pull away. It's a full second that he is now ahead of them. Jamie Hall manages to go by Rob Olenek. Phil Lake starting to fall back. This could be any number of things. Maybe some of the drivers were on fuel.
It's too late, though. Leskala will be free and clear by the time he exits Arnage, as long as he takes Indianapolis and Arnage well. He does Indianapolis. He enters through Indianapolis well here. He's exiting well. Can he get through Arnage free and clear? If he does, he pretty much is free and clear to the end of the race as long as he's got the fuel.
Arnage, a little bit of wheel spin from Jamie Hall. That could have been the nail in the coffin for Leskala. The number 7 is looking for another victory here. Actually, no, his first victory of the season. He's the only of the top 5 besides Ryan Lang who has not won yet this season. He's got a good gap of about 2 seconds now over Rob Olenek. Phil Lake still trying to tussle with him. And what happened to Jamie Hall?
And Jamie's still right here in the battle with Jukka Leskala, but Leskala's starting to streak away. Leskala free and clear up to the Ford chicanes. Leskala with a really good opportunity to take his first win. All he has to do is get through the Ford chicanes clearly. He gets through 1. He gets through 2. Leskala in for the win here at Le Mans.
It's been a long time coming for the number 7 car. Hall's going to follow him home in second. Oh, and Olenek's out of fuel. Lake sneaks by literally at the line to claim a podium over the disappointed Rob Olenek. That's going to be the last of our cars through. We're going to come back after a quick break and show you the official results and hopefully have a few driver interviews. Stick around because on screen you'll see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. welcome back to Le Mans. We just watched round 9 in the Kamel GT series, and once again, just like the season opener, when it's all about those slipstream battles, Matthias Hovdal comes away with the win after starting from third. Cy Andra pressured him the whole way, was only half a second behind at the end. I'm sure he's frustrated himself, knowing that if he hadn't have battled with those two drivers partway through the race, maybe he could have had a shot at it. Nick Schneider was one of those who came home in fourth, and Tobias Gerber wound up in P4. Laust Olsen, remember I mentioned starting from 22nd without a qualifying time? 5th place here today. And how about Fabian Gerber? What a recovery. Qualified on second place, had to take a pit stop to get repairs, took a bit of fuel in the process, and then rushed his way through back up to 6th from all the way down as far as 15th or 16th place. Martin Krejcik was 7th, with Steven Warkup finishing P8. Pablo Suarez with a 9th today was followed by Hideki Koivista rounding out your top 10. Clement unfortunately involved in a big wreck, but still winding up 11th place, and Mike Reuter finished in 12th. Guilherme de Otero was P13. Clayton McLeod had to take an extra stop, didn't save enough fuel, and finished 14th. Luca Lodato finished in P15, and Joseph Mudrak finished 16th. Alexis Tapiavico was P17, followed by Giulio Fercolin in P18, and David Miller 19th. Beyond that, you had drivers who DNF'd today.
Then we have Yuko Leskola, who finished on the win today. Fantastic win from him after a little bit of contact coming through Arnage for all 4 of the Audi leaders. Jamie Hall able to claw his way back after being about 2.5 seconds back at that pack. Got himself up to second place. Phil Lake and Rob Olenek, both with damage, finished 3rd and 4th position. You see Jerry Forkolb and Donald Peak, 2 GTP drivers who had trouble today. Then we have Ben Laffer, who comes home in 5th, just ahead of Daniel Sadro, who ran out of fuel on the last lap in 6th position. Mick Claridge able to fight his way up to 7th. Impressive drive for him, with Yuri Gieson coming home in the 8th position. Carlos Fonseca finishes 9th, with Miguel Alcalde finishing in 10th position. Ryan Lang falls back to 11th, with Simo Raba in 12th. Jamie Hamill-Smith in 13th position, with Alexander Belbin 14th. Lucas Fort comes home in 15th today, with Craig Schultz 16th. James Fuster 17th. Pierre-Luc Bouffard 18th. Michael Haynes 19th. Ryan Walker is the first car with major damage, coming home in the 20th position. The rest of the cars that you see on your board are cars with damage. Fabian Jungbluth, Pablo Rangal, Miguel Castro, Sandro Scurry, Robert Plumley, Chris Croder, Aitor Sentias Guindo, and Michael Houghton.
Got our winner ready to talk to us. It's Matthias Hovdal. Matthias, I joked on the broadcast that with your win here at Le Mans, and then also at Monza, you're kind of becoming the Dale Jr. of the Camel series here.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
Do you consider yourself stronger at these slipstream tracks, or is this more of a coincidence thing in your mind?
I think it's maybe more that the low downforce setups in general suit me because you can wheel the car a bit more.
And you certainly seem to be quite handy at that. Now, you saw the leaders obviously have their incident, and you went up to the front, but then Sayandra worked his way back forward. How nervous were you in the cockpit watching that gap come down? And how hard were you pushing through the traffic to try and keep that from getting too small?
Yeah, I broke away from the pack very early, so I knew I was going to be very close on fuel. And I figured maybe he'd managed to save more than me because he hung back for a while. So I was very concerned about that he would just, basically, if he got within draft range, I think he would have won the race. So that was really the main concern. And I got lucky with most of the passes on the GTOs, but there was a couple where I lost quite a bit. So, but I managed to keep, the closest he ever got was maybe 0.9 or something like that. So that was the critical thing for me this race, I think.
Thinking about everything out there as well as trying to be fast. But again, congratulations before we let you go. Anybody you want to thank for the victory today?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for putting on a good broadcast. It's always nice to watch it back after a good race. So yeah, thanks.
Well, thank you very much. That was Matthias Hovdal taking win number 2 this season. And up next, I believe Adam has caught up with the driver trying to catch up with Matthias, and that is Sai Andra.
Yeah, Sai, we'll talk about your battle with Matthias very shortly, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about the incident at during lap 3. What happened from your perspective in that moment?
Honestly, it was just me trying to test different breakpoints behind Fabian and trying to plan for that last lap shootout or last 2 lap shootout. And it was just me getting my breakpoint slightly wrong. And in these cars, when you lock up, you go straight. Unfortunately, it caused him a little bit of damage, I think, even though it was pretty light contact. But as you know, the back ends of things are pretty fragile. So, sorry, Fabian.
Yeah, but you ended up clawing your way back, and so did he, up to 6th position. But you clawed your way back after losing some time and some positions to Nicholas Schneider and Tobias Gerber. Talk to me about the battles with those two, and also your job trying to claw your way up to Matthias Hovdal.
I think Tobias and Nicholas were both running a lower downforce setup than I was, so it was very much stay with them on the straights, then trying to get them in the corners. But as you know, passing on the corners is a lot harder than passing on the straights. So I had to do a little bit of, I had to dip into my bag of racecraft a little bit to get past Tobias and Nicholas and sort of time my passes right so I could get in front of them and they just wouldn't draft right past me. And thankfully I got that done, but I didn't get it done as quickly as I wanted. I spent a little bit too much time playing with them, so to speak, and that cost me at the end of the race. I think if I had got it done a few corners earlier with Nicholas or Tobias, I think I would have been side by side with Matthias going to the Porsche curves.
Yeah, you just lost out there. Do you think that the late race traffic had anything to do with you just not being able to make it there on the last lap?
It was a mixture of both, yes, hold them up, and no, don't hold me up. But at the same time, it did give me an opportunity to save fuel. And like Matthias brought up, I was very, very close. Almost immediately after I crossed the finish line, I was starting to sputter. So in traffic, it actually gave me an opportunity to save fuel without actually losing time to Matthias, since we were both being held up.
Yeah, as you said, we saw 5 GTP drivers who were short on fuel today, but fantastic finish for you regardless. The second place, especially after a wreck like that on such a long, fast track. Is there anyone you want to thank for your second place today?
Well, not so much as thank, but ask for forgiveness, so to speak. But basically, Fabian, I owe you one.
All right, that was Sai Andra, our second place finisher today, and back to you, Joe.
Things very interesting in the championship. Andra not able to take maximum points, and Gerber obviously a little bit down the field. So we'll catch up with them in a week's time. Before we get there, though, we want to once again remind you that if you're looking to take advantage of GSRC's over 1 million global monthly impressions, from official series sponsorships to commercial placements, we have advertising options customizable to suit your company's needs. Follow the link in the description below to learn more. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcast. We've listed them here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Also, check out our social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is GSRC_Graham. Make sure and hit us up there because we love interacting with our fans. And also support the channel through our merchandise store. It's gsrc.storenv.com. We got a link in the description below. And while you're down there, make sure and subscribe to the channel. The next round is heading to Barcelona, the Grand Prix course. Very difficult to pass there, so qualifying could be incredibly important. It'll be Saturday, August 15th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Next one up today, a little bit later in the evening, that'll be the Bootleg Racing League going to Martinsville. That'll be at 9 p.m. Eastern for the Grand National Series. Until next time, though, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.